All right, well, welcome everyone to the first ever streamed meeting of the Glenn County Board of Assessors. My name is Jeff Bennett, and I am the current chair, and we have all 4 other members present, so I will call us to order and declare that we have a quorum. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of our past meeting dated April 18th, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes from April 18th.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. I will now turn it over to our chief appraiser to continue going down the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Ron Glisson, Chief Appraiser with the Glenn County Property Appraisal Office. First item is the sales ratio study for the 2024 digest. These are located in the left side of your packet. So for calendar year 2023 leading into January 1 of 2024, we had 1,639 sales. So the statistics, which are mandated by the state, we've got a median level ratio of 0.93%. We've got a coefficient of dispersion, which is 0.05. That's an aggregate, which is a measure of uniformity. And also the price-related differential, which is 1.0078, which is assessment bias, a measure of assessment bias. So if there's any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Well, currently these ratios fall outside of acceptable.
They're inside they're all within range.
Well, I thought we were.
I was going to clarify that.
Okay.
For people who are trained at the 40% assessed level, it's just easier for the department to work at 100% FMV. So
Okay.
the range would then be 90 to 110 versus 36 to 44 on the level of assessment.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is on fair market value, not assessment
Correct,
value.
correct,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Because I'm always used to 1.04 down to 0.96. That's on assessed value. Okay. And is this how it's normally put together on your end, is doing
Correct.
it on the fair market value side?
As you know, we're under new software, and so this is actually the first report through the Board of Assessors,
Okay.
to the Board of Assessors. So these are the stats for the 24, where our system is completely shut down. Assessment notices are going out May 24th, and these are the statistics from that.
Okay.
So this, yeah.
And how does the state look at it? Do they look at it from a fair market value standpoint?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Now, when you'll see when you talk about taxes, then it becomes assessed value, which is 40% of fair market, simply 40% of fair market value.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions or concerns?
Oh, but it's a long-standing historical discussion.
Oh, yeah.
40% versus 100.
Right. And I mean, I know
Code says and what APM says.
my memory, I remember it now. My memory doesn't always kick in right away, but all right. Well, I mean, that's good. Of course, we know when the state comes in and does an audit, they don't necessarily use the same data that is being used here, and there's nothing you can really do about that.
Correct.
But I'm glad to see that we are currently in compliance and apparently doing pretty well. So, very good.
Yeah. All right.
Like I said, any other questions? Okay, we'll move on.
All right, item number 2 is the 2024 Growth and Inflation Report. So these reports have been given out to Glenn County, also the school system, as well as the city of Brunswick, and I'll go through each report. First is the 2024 county real property digest totals, growth and inflation, and what we've got is from tax year 23 to tax year 24, less all applicable exemptions. the net taxable increase year versus year is 6.61% for Glenn County. So typically, Glenn County and the school board run a very close range, except for the L6 is really the only difference, which is the Chapman Lane exemption, the school exemption. And their growth in inflation for '24, their net taxable increase is 6.27%. And then lastly is going to be the city of Brunswick. And their net change year versus year, net taxable is 7.66%. So these were all as of May 16th at 10:30 a.m. And like I say, the system shut down. We don't see much change as the digest would be delivered to the state sometime several months from now.
The net exemption for the city is pretty high. What caused that?
Off the top, I wouldn't know specifically what. It's just
I'm gonna guess governmental buildings.
yeah. They're heavy on churches. It's going to be a lot of government buildings, but specifically, I don't think it's going to be one item that's going to show the increase. It's just the aggregate of all the exempt properties, which is.
Right. Well, it's nice to see. I mean, we've had a pretty substantial increase in 2024, which, you know, we had a little bit of a dip in appreciation over the end of 2023, but it looks like recovering nicely and continuing to increase. Are there any questions or concerns or anything else regarding inflation? I mean, we're looking at about 0.5% a month right now is what it looks
Yeah.
like.
Pretty explosive growth, but like I say, we're coming off of a lot of high growth the last several years. So pretty,
And this includes
explosive.
growth and inflation, correct?
correct, yes. So, just to put into context, the overall digest is about 21 billion. So if you can imagine, it takes a lot to move the needle. So when you speak of a net taxable of 6.5%, that's about $120 million in 100% fair market value growth. That's taxable. So these are pretty big numbers. If there's any questions, try to answer, or I'll move forward.
No, I think it's pretty straightforward, unless somebody else has something. Let's talk about budget.
All right, so the budget for fiscal year 24-25, running pretty parallel. We are going to get a new truck that's been approved already, up to $48,000, which is on the third page of your budget sheet. Which we're happy to see. I think we're turning in a 1998. We've experienced a lot of problems with the truck and having problems getting around. And we did request four-wheel drive. As you know, we've got to visit the Flippers and Couvers every year, and a lot of the pre-built mobile homes, which are a lot of dirt roads that we have to traverse. So I was happy to see that. I think that's going to definitely come in handy. Thanks to the budget team. Everything else, we had a slight uptick in education and training, of which on page 2 we've got a list of all of the education. Most of the education is mandated by the state. So I was happy to see that. Let's see what else we have. I think everything else pretty much parallels. We've got our office supplies, which has been requested increased to 10,000 instead of 5,000. And we also are implementing a drone this year. So that'll be something that we can use for marinas and things of that nature. So it's going to be, I think it's going to pay dividends to have the drone, which I think is an estimate of $3,000 for the drone and the case.
Do you have to go through an approval process with FAA and all
Yeah.
of that?
That'll be something we'll visit. I've had conversations with Assessor McCormick about that, and I think he's going to lead the charge on all the registration of the drone and the doing most of the work with it. So we're,
And you may know this, you have to be licensed to operate one?
Yes.
Okay, so there, is that also included in the budget for the drone, is licensing of someone or someone's?
yes, yes.
Okay.
If there's no questions on the budget, I'll move forward.
Does anyone have a question? It doesn't look like we've adjusted very much, but, and this is at what stage? I mean, this is approved at this point?
So the budget is going to the county commission, and it could, sometimes there's some changes at that level and through the county commission until their final vote. But I think that we're pretty stable, and I think we're pretty safe with what's on here. That's what we're gonna move forward with, but I'm pleased, hopefully it'll have, it'll pass and we can move forward with that budget.
Well, just a very quick overview and look, it looks to be pretty straightforward, and I think,
Yeah.
Should be in good shape. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? All right, we'll move ahead.
All right, item number 4, by law, the new FLIPA and CUVA exemptions. For that covenant, these will need to be approved. I've got an itemized list on the left side of your packet, and I would request a vote from the board for approval of the new FLIPA and CUVA applications for the 2024 digest.
Well, this just says CUVA. Are these?
There's no new FLIPAs.
No
Yeah.
new flippers, okay. All right, and we have 30 this year?
Yeah, 30 new.
Well, just a clarification, some of these are larger former CUVAs that split up and became smaller parcels,
Okay,
but still
That's correct.
CUVA applicable.
right. But that's a bigger number than we're accustomed to, isn't it? I mean, 30.
Yeah, it is a bigger number, yeah.
Are any of these renewals?
Yeah, some are renewals, as you know, when it was implemented, it's a 10-year program.
Right.
And so some of these you're seeing, renewals after the 10-year, the year 11. So,
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the 2024 new CUVA application.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, did you get those? All right. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, move on.
all right, last item is the 2024 assessment notices. As you know, we're going to be sending the assessment notices out on May 24th. So we've already got the flash drive to the printer. They're waiting on the board's approval. Essentially, the board just has to vote. We've got 46,909 real property assessment notices and 3,382 personal property notices. And so we will send, as soon as the board approves, after the meeting, we'll call the vendor and we'll tell them that it's a go and move forward.
Do I have a motion to approve sending of the current assessment notices?
I'll make a motion to approve the current assessment notices.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion? One thing I would like to discuss before we approve is before anything is attached to the public site, to please verify that the correct years are being attached. So,
Yeah, so I would like to say that I talked with the interim manager of GIS, John. We're going to roll the information from tax year 23 to 24 simultaneous on the 24th through Schneider Corporation. And he sent an email for that today, and just to verify. And so that's a go as far as, so when the taxpayers get their assessment notice, and then there's a reference on, as far as Q Public website, and they start investigating whether or not they want to appeal their property value, whether value uniformity, then they can go, they'll have all the current information on Q Public. So
right, but they should get a mailed copy first, right?
that's correct, yeah, which go out on 24th. So I expect, I think the holiday is the 27th, so I expect people to start receiving them in the mail probably the 28th, the full amount. So then we'll move forward with the appeal season. So.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that is approved. Do you have any other items for us today?
No, sir.
All right. Well, I appreciate it very much, and good work. Please compliment your staff. I mean, I know it's been probably a hectic couple of weeks trying to get to this point, but we appreciate all of you guys and all that you do, very much so.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. The next item is our consent agenda, which we have two items. I'm going to ask that item number 2 be removed from the consent agenda, which is the Superior Court recommendations. Does anyone have a request to remove the other, which is real and personal property corrections?
Mr. Chairman, I'll motion to approve real and personal property corrections as provided by staff.
All right,
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. And I can probably speak to this because I spoke to staff regarding this property on, this was a negotiated settlement at Superior Court level, and it was a substantial drop, and so I was just curious as to what happened in this particular case. They had an override value based on 2-year sales price, is that correct?
Just Lane.
Yeah.
Jamie Lane, Deputy Chief Appraiser. That's exactly, they had a 299C on a 2021 appeal.
Okay.
And it was removed because there was a permit out and it CO'd. But in the code it's of course a little gray, but says that we can increase or decrease the value of the real property after a visual on-site inspection if it's found there's been substantial additions, deletions, or improvements to such property. And the improvement they did does not rise to the level of a substantial change. So we would recommend giving the 3rd year back and it coming off next year as it should have.
So substantial is subjective in
It
this
is
particular
subjective,
case?
yeah.
Okay, because, yeah, I don't really know what that means as far as a percentage goes or anything like that. But,
Right.
But that's what happened in this case, and I want to be sure that everybody saw that before we just voted on it, because, yeah, you're looking at almost, basically $1.4 million that's
Right.
coming off the tax digest. But it's an override that we really don't have a lot of control over, as long as there's not substantial changes to the
That's
property.
That's correct.
All right. Does anyone have any other questions or
Just
concerns?
TY 2024 is closer to the 3,494 number,
Yes, yeah, it'll be.
or is the
It-
3,494?
I don't know for sure. It'll either be that or a little bit higher.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Hearing nothing, I will ask for a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve Superior Court recommendations presented by staff to the board.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, that passes. Is there any old business?
I got 2 quickie follow-ups from former meetings that
Okay.
didn't really make the agenda. We had talked about using the North Carolina Billboard Valuation Structure Guide because of various reasons. I'm wondering, does it behoove us to send that out to the purveyors of roadside advertising? It's a 29-page guide. It's a PDF. It's just under 3 megabytes. With an explanatory letter saying we're getting more representative of fair market value pursuant to our regulations.
Right. I mean, I don't think it's ever harmful to be transparent in this situation. However, I mean, by sending out some type of notice or letter, you're setting a precedent. And so whenever you change evaluation procedure, are you going to do it for
I don't need a decision today. I was just planting a seed for thought. And if you have
Right.
comments on that, please get back to me.
Okay.
And the
Well,
other seed,
let's continue to put that on old business moving forward. We talked about, how to handle that situation.
sticking in the personal property world, the second seed I kind of want to plant is, and Assessor Lawson could be very valuable on this. If a business or if someone's returning personal property, if it's late, there's a 10% penalty. That's code. If they don't return it for various and sundry reasons, they lost their account or whatever, they don't return it, the value rolls. And really, the only penalty they're really incurring is their lack of the depreciation they might have otherwise gotten from a Schedule A of the PT 50P. So now that we're dealing with Tyler on this new $2.5 million worth of software, do we want to consider adding the penalty to non-returned rolled accounts?
Do we have the
Don't
power-
need an answer, just give it some thought.
But yeah, I mean, it's a valid point, but do we have the power to do so? I mean, is that under our,
Well, does late constitute, if it's not returned, I mean, you might infer that's very, very late. Or-
right?
Or,
I mean, but,
give it some thought. I'm
yeah,
sure
I
there's
mean, but I
nuances
mean,
to it.
if you just automatically rolls into, you know, the past year's value rolls into the current year.
Yes,
I mean, the only concern I see is that they've increased inventory or increased their amount of personal property and that we're not picking that up.
well, I have a significant case of that, yeah.
Yeah, and so, but, I mean, if it's, again, you know, we're setting precedents and, we need to be sure that we have the power to do so. I mean, I mean, if they come and say, we're good at the, prior year's, assessed value, we don't think we've had any dramatic changes in our valuation, is that acceptable as far as the return goes?
If nothing's changed, yeah, they just don't get the additional depreciation.
Right, but
I-
if they just, you know, that's just saying that, you know, but they're not actually filing a return, so there is a little bit of a gray area of what you're saying, I guess.
Fortunately, I will be meeting with a lot of LGSD toward people this coming week, and I'll broach the question, go, what has come up in the past on this topic? And I'll get back to you on that, but it just struck me as ironic. I ran the ABC ice cream cone factory company, and I didn't return, I was late April 5th last year, and hit me with a 10% penalty. But this year, I didn't return at all, and I didn't get a penalty. I just got a roll value. So, it just
Okay.
seems odd.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I agree with you that it should, but it's probably low on their priority list a lot of times. So we probably need to educate some, probably a little bit better. But again, how do you do that?
And just as an aside, it's surprising how many returns are dated April 2nd, April 3rd, April 4th, and April 5th. People trying to make the April 1st just didn't do it. You kind of feel bad for them. Okay.
All right. Any other old business from anyone? I'm going to ask our chief appraiser to kind of update us on the Tyler system, where we stand. I mean, do we feel like we are where we should be? Are there still some items to be corrected, or so forth and so on?
I can tell you this, the support has been A1. We've had a lot of trials and tribulations probably the last month. Just getting the assessment notices, we've probably been back and forth with corrections. Probably had no less than 10 that their support system has worked on just to get to the assessment notice period. But what it has done is, going forward, we built some reports that took a lot of time and effort through IT this year with the growth in inflation, building it outside the system and going to incorporate it in the system. Some of the adjustments that were made in the reports that are built is going to make it a lot easier going forward. I kind of understand where, talking to a lot of the folks around the state, where they say about year 3, the system really starts to pay dividends. And you can kind of see that from where we sit today, but there's been an awful lot of stress to get to where we are today. A lot of last minute updates, even as early as this morning. So we feel comfortable where we're at. There may be a few wrinkles that we're unaware of, but we've been as thorough as possible. We've had a lot of eyes on every single notice, and I feel pretty good about it. But I'm just happy that the support has been top notch. So
Good.
yeah.
Any other questions regarding Tyler? Homestead exemptions. We are basically have closed that aspect out for this particular year?
So for homesteads, as you know, this is our first year as we've received the homesteads from the tax commissioner's office. Got a call today from the Board of Elections, and they have sent over information. I think there was 8 total homesteads that they found that had homesteads, married couples that had homesteads in 2 places. So we'll go and look through the corrected, if we're gonna do our due diligence, we're gonna review that next week, tomorrow and next week, and then we'll have a corrected notice for them. But I think all in all, I would like to thank the staff's done a wonderful job with that, but I think all in all, we feel pretty comfortable. I would like to say that I'll also be present next week at our conference with Assessor McCormick, and we're gonna reach out and try to get software, try to review and see if there's a better way, some software that we can utilize to make sure that it's, you know, it's we feel comfortable with what's put out at the end of the year, so.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, one of my concerns regarding that is, I mean, you're generally talking 8 to 10 properties a year that are being identified, you know, in most cases. And, you know, if you're going out and spending a bunch of money on software, what is your return on that? And,
Yeah, I mean, not everything can be, I think financially feasible is important, but making sure that it's equitable, it's uniform, you know, that's, I think that's, and the Board of Assessors can assess how much some of this software is gonna cost, and, you know, make a decision at that point, if they wanna engage.
Right.
So, we'll cross that bridge when the time comes. Hopefully, it'll be sooner rather than later on that, so after we explore all the items that are out there that can help us, so.
And one other question I have is, we are dealing with an old agenda, or old template of an agenda, I guess. We had discussed a new agenda, very similar to what the Board of Commissioners are currently using.
Right.
It's available online. When will that be implemented?
I think it'll be ready at the next meeting. Aaron, you had conversation, and it'll probably be implemented on the next meeting, and it'll resemble the same as
Okay.
County Commission and Planning and Zoning, all the various.
So we can
Various.
expect it at that
Yeah,
point?
yeah.
Okay. All right, any other old business? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to Chairman, Board Member items, new business. The first thing we have is the 2024 BOA schedule. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, so here we are in room 224, I believe, is the room, and we've got the next meeting, which is June the 6th. There's a conflict with Finance Committee. And I think there's gonna be one more June 6th, and there's one more in maybe September. I don't have the date in front of me. But June 6th, if we would go to our next meeting, if it becomes June 20th, which is already on schedule, if it becomes June 20th, I don't see any negative effect. But I would request the board if they would consider just moving forward with June 20th.
Okay, that'd be
Due to the
only-
due to the conflict of the meeting.
And as far as for the rest of the year, there are no conflicts? at
No,
this
there's
point?
one more in September. I just don't have that date, but I can bring it to you at the next meeting.
Okay, all right. Does anyone have a reason not to move it to the 20th? Well, I don't think we need a vote on that. I think I can just say, let's change it, and everybody's okay with it, and we'll just plan on meeting on the 20th. And that will be our only meeting in June?
Right, that's great.
Okay. Any other new business? Well, I will say, thank you everyone who is joining us from the cyber world. This is our first meeting, and I guess it's a learning process for us, but we appreciate it. We appreciate the staff of the IT department for allowing us to do this. And with that being said, I'll bring us to the point we all like, and that is, oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Is there a need for an executive session? I don't think there is. All right, hearing none, I will declare us adjourned. Thank you.